I got cystic fibrosis. See, I've got cystic fibrosis.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Staying Salty. My name's Chelsea. Happy holidays, and I'm so sorry that you missed me last week with our video on CF versus normal life and how to balance that. I was actually in the hospital and I explained it all in that video, but upon leaving the hospital I forgot my memory card, which of course has all of the video on it. So that video will actually be coming out on Sunday, so keep an eye out in a few days for that video if you want to know what I have to say about that topic. But this week our topic is something I've actually been looking forward to covering for a while, which is advice to new parents, guardians of someone with cystic fibrosis. Obviously, I am not a parent, nor am I a parent of someone with cystic fibrosis, but I asked my dad to write down a few of his tips or what he thought he would want to give advice to new parents. And to my surprise, he wrote, I believe, 18 tips about what he would want to give advice for new parents. So I'll actually put all of that in the description if you want to read all of what he has to say from his own mouth in his little list that he put together. But I'm just going to cover some of the topics that he touched on that I really think stood out to me as a CFer. So to start off, if you just have a child that is diagnosed with CF, breathe. Take a breath. It's okay. CF is not the worst thing that can happen to you. It is by far not a death sentence. Don't Google it. Don't scare yourself with all of these numbers out there. Median expectancy life, or life expectancy, all of these scary numbers. They don't equate to what your child is going to be or who they're going to become. Try not to Google. Try to resist that urge and just breathe. Accept that this is something that you're going to have to deal with, and you're going to take it day by day. No one has a crystal ball. Nobody can tell you what's going to happen in the future. I know when I found out what CF meant, I actually made a video about this, and I'll put that down below. It was shocking to me, and it blew up my entire brain of what my future held for myself. So I can only imagine what it does for a parent thinking the same things for their newborn baby. So relax. It will be okay. You're going to handle it day by day. You're going to handle it. And just accept that even if you do talk to other people with children with cystic fibrosis, I've always described CF as a similar disease to autism in the respects that it is very much on a range, a scale of severity. Whereas some people are my age and have never been hospitalized once in their life. Then there are some people my age who have had a double lung transplant and are much worse off than I. Everyone and their disease is very different, especially with all the different mutations. So you really just have to treat your child as their own person instead of a disease, because everyone does deal with it so differently. My second piece of advice, I have them all written down over here, so if I keep looking, that's why, is to listen. Listen to your child. Listen to them cry, yell, scream, whatever they want to do, be there for them. Don't try and sit there and say, I understand, or try and relate, because that's not going to help. Simply just be there. Be present with them and hold a space for them to be able to have those feelings of frustration and of sadness and whatever else might be going through their mind. Just be there with them and for them, but don't try and tell them that you understand. You can empathize, but there is no way, even for me, to say to another CFer that I completely understand what they're going through. I think one of the most important parts, if you can't tell by my hands, is to be positive. Like I said, CF is not the worst thing that could happen to somebody in the world. by far the worst thing is to not have a life at all. So the fact that your child is present, is living, is doing all these things, and is running, playing with other kids, be positive about that. Being perpetually negative about our shortcomings, our limitations, is going to get us nowhere but despair. So try and be positive, try and look at the silver lining, look at everything as it is, and not try and compare your child to other people. Everyone's lives are very, very, very different. And I think a positive attitude, regardless of what you're going through, can make a world of difference, because it's so true that our physical body and our mentality are so interconnected that if we have a poor mental attitude, it can manifest within our physical body. So attitude, positivity, so key, so key. One point that I really enjoyed that my dad made was to try and put yourself in your child's shoes each and every morning. Whether your child verbalizes it, acts upon it, or makes it outwardly apparent, they do think about the fact that they are different than other people. Their life might be cut short, and that is something that weighs on every individual to an extent, no matter how they show it on the outside. And by simply putting yourself in their shoes, waking up every morning and having that reminder by doing treatments, taking pills, gets you into the mindset of what your child might be dealing with each day, not even factoring in having to do life on top of that, like go to school or work or deal with anything that a normal child does deal with. So try and put yourself in their shoes each and every morning to try and just understand their life a little bit better and maybe sympathize a little bit easier with what they're dealing with when they do have a bad day. So as my dad said, a parent's natural instinct is to help their child. And what the doctors are going to do is prescribe medicine, prescribe everything to keep your child alive and as healthy as they can be. But it is your job to instill the importance of those medications, educate them, tell them why they're doing things, be able to be there as a sounding board for questions and things like that. And that just even goes into my next point even more, that you need to educate yourself. Yes, the doctors are there when your child has a question, but if they're sitting on the couch doing their medicine one night and asks you, why do I do this bronchodilator? It's much more helpful if you know the answer to that question rather than saying, we'll ask the doctor next time. So educate yourself. Knowledge is power. The more you know, the better you can fight this disease. So read research, read what's in the pipeline for cystic fibrosis treatment. Read as much as you can and understand as much as you can so that you can better convey that information to your child, and then convey the importance of why they're doing what they're doing. I thought this one was so funny that my dad said. He said, stop asking your child when they're sick if they're okay or if they're feeling better. And it is so true, because it is the most frustrating thing, because I've been sick now. I've been on IVs for 5 weeks. Oh, crap. For 5 weeks. I've been feeling bad for about 2 months. And people ask me all the time, oh, how do you feel? Do you feel better? I don't even remember what feeling better feels like at this point. So constantly being asked that question, I sometimes don't even know how to answer it. So ask less questions and be there for when your child wants to talk or wants to tell you something. Because asking every day if they're feeling better doesn't help. I'm sorry. So I think this next one is the most important thing to remember for new parents. And it's to trust your instincts. And if your child's older, to trust their instincts. They know their body best, and you know, you have that intuition internally if something is not right. Trust that. If your child says, I don't feel good, something isn't right, and all the numbers say otherwise, and your doctors are saying, oh, nope, everything's fine. If your gut is saying something, and if your child is saying, look, this isn't right, trust them. Trust your gut, trust your child. And even more importantly, if you don't think you're making a good connection with a CF team, you don't have to stay there. I remember my mother's first doctor, when she said something was wrong with me, they brushed her off so fast that they didn't even test me for anything because they thought she was an over-worried first-time mother. Eventually, I was clearly diagnosed with CF. So if you feel like something is wrong, or if you feel like you're not being treated the way you should be, or with the importance that you want, it's fine to go get a second opinion, to go to a different center. I always kind of describe CF centers as dating. And yes, some people find their first CF center and they fall in love. They're amazing, perfect, exactly what they want, and a perfect match. Whereas other people don't fall in love with their first love. They need to go and date a few more people or go see a few more centers before they find the one that really clicks with them and that they fully trust. Because once you can trust your CF team, it is so much better. Your mentality, your confidence, everything just becomes so much better that you trust the team that's taking care of you, and you trust that when they go home at night, they don't shut the door to that hospital and forget about you. They go home and they think, wow, your child's in the hospital. Maybe I could do this tomorrow. Maybe this would work. And those are the kind of doctors you want. So if you don't feel right at your center, don't feel bad going to somewhere else, because you need to advocate for your child's life and they need to advocate for themselves later in life. So they need to learn from you. They need to learn how to be their own advocate, and they need to know that it's okay when they don't feel like something's right to speak up about it. The next one I think is so crucial. Do not put your child in a bubble. I feel like so many CF parents get so scared, especially new ones, of all of the bacteria like Pseudomonas, staph, all of these infections and bacteria that can get into the lungs, that they want to put their little baby in a little hermetically sealed bubble and put them in their crib and never leave. But that's not what you need to do. Just treat your child like any other child. Now, I'm not saying to go let them eat an entire thing of sand out of the sandbox, but within reason. Take precautions when you need to, when you're around sick people or very, very crowded places, hand sanitizer, washing hands, normal things like that. But you by no means need to put your child in a bubble and restrict their activity. I swam in oceans, played everywhere that my little brother did. I was a normal child, and I'm still a 24-year-old who's kicking it. So don't put your little child in a bubble. Just treat them like anyone else, and I swear it will be okay. And if they get sick, you will handle it, because kids without CF get sick too, and that's okay. Probably one of my less popular pieces of advice is to parents: do not act like you are the one with the disease. Remember that you are the parent. The child has the disease. It is perfectly normal for you to mourn the loss of the normal life you had dreamed for your child and struggle with the fact that they have to deal with everything that they have to do and struggle with being a parent of someone with cystic fibrosis. But talk to other parents, talk to other people, go to therapy, talk to people about this. Do not put that burden onto your child, because as much as they don't say it will, they will be worried about you more than you understand. So remember that they're the one with the disease, and to cope with your own struggles your own way, and do not put that on the child. My last piece of advice, and probably the most important, is to always be there for your child. Let them know that their health and their well-being is your top priority. And most of all, they are not a burden to you. They did not ask to be brought into this world. They did not ask to have cystic fibrosis. So having a great support system who's there no matter what is extremely important. I know for me, actions have always spoke louder than words. And you can show that to your child in so many ways by being there with them in the hospital, answering their texts or calls as soon as you can, being at events in their life, sympathizing with them, and doing so many other things to show them that they matter, that despite this disease, you are there and they are your top priority. My dad, actually, we have a great relationship, but he gave me permission to show this. As a graduation present from high school, my dad actually wrote me a full-fledged book, My Journey with Chelsea, which is by far my most prized possession that I own. And it's a full 26-page novel, essentially, about our lives together and what he's learned, and signed in the back. And that just goes to show, I really want to bring it home that CF is not a horrible thing. Yes, it's a disease. Yes, it's a whole different way of life. But it has brought my father and I closer than I think we could have ever been otherwise. You are required to talk about things that normal children never talk about with their parents. You're required to spend time together, to empathize, to relate, to talk about your feelings in a way that most children don't. And though it is a very hard thing and a disease, and it's most apparently a negative, there are some amazing positive that's come out of it. You and your child will get through this. You will be fine. And you will be there for them no matter what. They're still your child. They're still perfect. Everyone is different in their own way. This is just your family's new different. And remember, it doesn't have to all be bad. So with that, I will sign off and wish you all the best. If you ever have any questions for me, I will leave my email and social media down below. And like I said, I will put the link or the list that my dad had made down below so you can read that. And I will put the video that I talked about earlier of how I understood what CF meant down below as well. So check all of our handles out on our different social media. Those will be down below. And if you like this video, subscribe, hit the like button, and until next week, I will see you guys later. All right, thanks guys. Bye.
See, I've got cystic fibrosis.